Welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman, the podcast dedicated to helping you build the business of your dreams and live the life you always hoped for, with valuable and fun tips and info to make your life easier and more fun. And now, here's your host, a man who sprinkles metal shavings on his breakfast cereal just for fun, Jason Silverman.
Hello everybody and welcome to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. Now, I'm your host, Jason Silverman, and I'm thrilled to share some time with you once again today. As you know, I am always on the hunt for interesting as well as super smart real deal guests, and I gotta tell you, today's show is a winner. I really want to introduce my listeners to somebody who's truly been there and done that and is continually doing it. And I'm excited to pick his brain for your benefit today. Now, for the folks who I work with in any of my coaching programs, mastermind group, or through Powerful Words Character Development, All-Star Cheer Sites, or dance sites done right, you know how much I focus on the development and constant improvement of your brand, right? Well, today's show is going to help us to do just that. So today it's going to be my honor and privilege to share an amazing resource with you. You're going to love today's guest. He's got a ton of valuable info about a super hot topic to help you succeed, as well as a fun way to deliver it. So I want you to strap yourself in. Today's show is going to be a blast. As I'm sure you already know, I'm committed to helping business owners just like you to become more successful, enjoy your career more, and in general, make your life significantly more fun. You know, we only get one chance to go around this merry-go-round, so it's time to make it one hell of a ride. All right, boys and girls, it is now that time. I want you to stop surfing Facebook, put down Pinterest, put down Twitter, put down your phone, your laptop, your dog, your cat, your child, your spouse, whatever. Put away anything that might possibly distract you from today's show. You're about to get some great and immediately implementable information, and I don't want you to miss even a second. So, before we officially get going, let me give you a little bit of background about our guest today. Master Rick Rando is owner and president of Kickmasters Karate, head facilitator at randospeaks.com, and the CEO of Adron Enterprises. A traditional Taekwondo practitioner for the past 26 years, Rando owns one of the largest open space martial arts schools in the country. He's currently a 5th degree black belt, endorsed by martial arts legend Grandmaster Bill Superfoot Wallace, and he's been featured in Martial Arts Success and Black Belt magazine. A motivational speaker, Rick has conducted thousands of presentations in the school system and in the business community. He's also been a keynote speaker at hundreds and hundreds of events. Rick is currently a member of the Martial Arts Industry Association and the Allegheny County Character Counts program. He's a graduate from the Disney Institute and has earned the Gold and Platinum Mark of Excellence Award by Century Martial Arts for the past 6 years. An accomplished author, Rando has penned 4 cover articles featured in MA Success magazine and has appeared on the covers of both Allegheny and MA Success magazine. He's been featured in 5 Maya monthly instructional DVDs and was named one of Allegheny County's top 10 most fascinating people in 2013. Rando is a current member of the Allegheny County Student Business Advisory Committee, a marathon runner, and a board member of the Vicky Via Dotson Leukemia Foundation. And most of all, a pretty cool guy. So Rick, welcome to The Real Deal. I'm thrilled to have you.
Jason, it is my honor. I am humbled to be on your show. I'm excited to be here, excited to hopefully impart some wisdom upon your listeners. And I got to tell you, I listen to your podcast when it comes out. It's the first one that I tune into, even more so than any of the other subscriptions I have, because I know that I'm going to walk away with something of value, something that I can implement literally today. So thank you for having me. It's my honor.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous. Well, let me tell you this. Before we get started, for those who haven't had the opportunity of meeting you or listening to you speak, do me a favor, share your story with our listeners, all right? What are you passionate about? What makes you tick? Who is Rick Rando?
Well, I've heard you ask other guests this, and of course they tell their story and they try to sum it up in a nutshell, and it's almost like a therapy session with you, because if I start peeling away layers of onions, we may be here for a while, but I'll try to summate it as best I can. Basically, I love engaging people. I love mentoring to the young. I love motivating the lazy. I love telling stories about life, inspiration, inspiring people. And I just want to make sure that people understand that they can change the reality at any time. So basically, with all of that said, I want leadership by example, point blank. In everything that I do, whether it's in martial arts instruction, whether it's speaking, teaching, writing. Obviously, I want to walk the walk and talk the talk. So if everybody's doing that, and of course if I'm helping to perpetuate that, we have constant, positive, and valuable interactions daily with the people around us. You know, I see this a lot, especially with our young. They're so engrossed into their electronic devices, they forget that social interactions are not only valuable, but they're going to be necessary, especially if they want to get a job later on or if they want to really make a difference. Because with all the noise that's out there, and of course we're going to talk about this later, you really have to stand out in a positive way. So me, just in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I want to make sure that when I walk away from someone, in whatever facet that would be, whatever facet that would be, that lifts them up, that they feel like they got something of value, even if it's just something simple like a smile or holding the door or something that they notice I'm doing in a positive way. And it's really hard because it's almost like you're wearing the superhero cape sometimes, because as we all know, everyone watches the leader, and as we all know, everybody's quick to point out when the leader makes a mistake. So Rick Rando itself, me, I'm just a humble guy, just trying to make a small difference in the marble we're on, and I'm excited about this thing, man. Today, I appreciate you having me. So that's kind of the modern where I am now in life, and if we want to go back deeper, we can. But you know, let's get to the content. Let's get to the good stuff. Yeah,
no doubt. You know, it's interesting. This past summer when I got a chance to spend a couple minutes with you in Vegas at the Martial Arts Super Show. You know, I actually walked away from that conversation and said, yeah, that's absolutely the kind of guy, that's going to be perfect for our listeners. But just, you know, there are people that actually provide you with energy, and there are people who just suck you dry of it. And unfortunately, you know, we all tend to be burdened with those who suck energy from us. So I found it to be, you know, refreshing to have that conversation with you. And I'm sorry it took this long to get you on the show, but you know what? We're here, so let's boogie. So tell me this, you know, obviously we're going to be talking about brands and branding. Let's break it down for folks who might not understand or might not have ever learned this before. What would you say is the difference between brand and branding?
All right, well, I'm going to give you sort of the textbook definition, and I'm going to give you my definition. Okay.
Great.
So brand is the perceptions and substantive experiences that consumers have with your company. The product, the services, or the people that surround your entity or your product itself. Their perceptions and experiences, of course, are organized as stories that people tell about the company, its people, and their use of the product and services. Oh man, that's deep. The branding itself is basically the stories, experiences, and perceptions dealing with the company, product, people, or services provided, and the tangible good that goes along with that. So, okay, what does that mean? Because that's a lot. Because if I was listening, I would just have turned it to somebody else. Brand is what and how you feel, and branding is how you get that feeling across to consumers. So basically, the brand is what it is itself, what it stands for, what you are, what you represent, and the branding is how you tell that story, how you convey that to people that know nothing about your service or the product that you offer or what you actually do in your community. Okay, and I just want to give you something very, very simple that you can remember when we talk about branding and brand and how to get that across. Everything that you say, that you do, that you provide, every interaction that someone has with you, the people that work for you, your customers, your clients, everything speaks. Everything speaks. So if there's one little piece of tangible good that you walk away with this podcast from, it's that everything speaks. Everything directs the customer, client, consumer. Everything sends a message, and I got that really at the Disney Institute, and you know they're going through. I spent a week there learning their practices, how they do things, and that was the piece of gold that I spent thousands of dollars to get, and I just gave it to you strictly. Basically, if your name and logo occupy materials in a positive way, and people want those items, it's being placed in the forefront of the consumer's mind space, in their mind share, and becomes a walking advertisement. And basically, if you have a good brand through branding, or a good branding through your brand, you are going to get the shelf space and, of course, a product that people want to purchase over and over and over again. And also, if you're selling a good, like, let's say, an Under Armour shirt, well, let's face it, that stuff, I don't know what they feed their silkworms, maybe caviar or something. But when you wear an Under Armour sweatshirt or sweatpants or even socks, I'm wearing Under Armour socks, that stuff is amazing. And people want that. They know the quality associated with it. And a JCPenney's or Sears or some sort of sports goods store, they're going to give the shelf space to go ahead and allow for people to actually purchase the product because it gives you that leveraging power. It gives you those items that people are going to want and need, and they're going to crave, and of course they're going to pay top dollar for it.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Let's start even before this for a second, because one of the things that I've always been proud of for The Real Deal is that somebody's able to kind of get something that they can do right now, one actionable step that they can take today. So this is just kind of like on the top of my mind. So like when you start constructing your logo, your tagline, all that kind of stuff, what should you be branding?
Well, the first thing is that you have to identify what your brand actually is and how it differentiates your product from a competitor or something in a different sector that could possibly mean the same thing, or you have to mold your brand into something that's marketable. And of course, basically, it's really simple. You just ask yourself 3 simple questions. And once you ask yourself these questions, if you can answer truthfully, honestly, it sort of gives you some insight of where you are now, where you're going to go, and what you should be doing to help get you there. And the questions are simple. Where did you come from? So where did you come from when you're creating this product? Okay, what's your story? The Chick-fil-A story is fantastic. The KFC story, fantastic. These people started in a small shop, one location. That's their story. So maybe tradition, maybe pride of customer service, maybe quality of product, maybe it's a brand new product that nobody's ever seen before. Second, who are you now? Who are you now? What do you do? What kind of difference do you make daily? What do you do that provides a service or a good that's making a difference or that somebody would want to purchase? And the third question is, who do you want to be? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Now, these may seem like really basic, generic questions, but I guarantee that if you answer honestly and you say, okay, what am I doing in life now? When I go to work, is it important? And am I going to be there 5 and 10 years from now? Maybe you're creating a company from scratch. Maybe you're creating a new service. Well, there has to be some history there of why you're there. And of course, where are you in that module? Are you ready to go to market with it? Is this just a concept? Do you need investors? Are you ready to go ahead and implement it, stateswide or globally? And of course, where do you want to be from now? 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what's your main plan of distributing this product, service, good? And also, kind of on the back end, and we were just talking about this before we started, what's your exit strategy? That is really not what we're talking about today because, hey, if you haven't created the company yet, you can't think about how to get out of it. And if you're already thinking about how to get out of it, you probably should just go work at Walmart or something because it's just not for you. But basically, when you ask yourself these questions, you create your company's tagline. And I don't like to use the word tagline. I like to use the word brand promise. Because basically what you're saying when you create your tangible good, you're saying, okay, this is what we do. This is what the service we're going to provide. And this is how it's going to make a difference. So in my martial arts studio, the brand is Kickstarting Confident Leaders. Coincidentally, when I speak and I go to speaking engagements and I can do consulting, it's the same tagline, Kickstarting Confident Leaders. It makes sense. It's short. It's sweet. It gets to the point. But basically what it does is it pre-frames my brand with a tangible concept to potential clients who have never had any contact with me previously or don't know what it is that I do. So basically, it's a product very short because I don't have in my what I do. I don't have something that you can touch and feel. You see, it's conceptual, just like in martial arts. Of course, you sell uniforms, you sell belts, and you sell belt racks, and you sell heavy bags and things like that. But what we want to do is we want to sell something bigger than that, because just in the case of my martial arts studio, we want to build leaders. We don't just want to teach martial arts, because in this day and age with technology, if you want to learn how to kick and punch, you just Google kicking and punching, and you'll find a billion people that will teach you on the internet how to throw a good punch, how to throw a good kick. Okay, we don't want to do that, because that doesn't differentiate us from our competitor, or us from maybe dancing or gymnastics or something like that. We want to take the art of martial arts and we want to elevate that, because it's not just that we teach martial arts, okay? Because we're going to kickstart the confident leader inside of you. And as far as what you brand to go ahead and make that happen is really indicative of the service that you provide. So as I mentioned earlier, you want tangible goods that you can then brand with your logo, with your tagline, and just simply from what we do as martial artists, you can brand anything from uniforms to T-shirts, backpacks, sparring gear, toboggans, school supplies. We're just doing jackets and sweaters here not too long from now. Thermals, wristbands, bookmarks, slings, backpacks, shields, signs, baby apparel, blankets. You can brand pretty much anything that people will buy. Now, the market dictates what you can do, and also you should be very vigilant of where you put your brand. So that all comes down to what your tagline is. So ours is Kickstarting Leaders, Confident Leaders. So do we want to brand ladies' underwear on the butt that says Kickstarting Confident Leaders? No, that doesn't fit our brand, okay, because we're not selling women's undergarments to leaders. How is that going to make you a leader, run around in your underwear? So that doesn't necessarily fit. And we can talk about this a little bit later if you like. But also the other thing that you should be really vigilant of is what your branding and logo actually looks like. A lot of martial arts studios, up to about 10 years ago, is very traditional. So just in the case of just Kung Fu, and we all know this by the Furious Five on Kung Fu Panda, you have the snake and you have the monkey and you have different elements of Kung Fu. Well, what happens, they take that one element and have a big picture of a dragon spitting fire with 3 daggers coming out of the back. And they say, okay, this is our logo. And then they would go into a school system and expect kids to sign up for that. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't make sense. It's a very interesting thing, and people make hundreds of thousands of dollars of coming up with logos. The hidden arrow in FedEx, I think, is probably the most genius logo I think I've ever seen. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google FedEx and look at their logo, and you'll see. If you look close enough, you'll see the hidden arrow in there, and it makes sense. You didn't have a college student, pay $30 to come up with that. Or somebody in their basement say, well, I think this looks good. You really need to hire professionals when you come up with your tag or your brand promise and also your logo of how you want it to affect and also stimulate people to buy or even try your service. I know as a parent of a 4-year-old, anything with a skull or a dagger on it, I'm really leery of. Just because, my kid's 4. I mean, he doesn't know what any of that stuff is. And my job as a dad is to protect him from some of those things. And if we're selling, Monster Energy drink, the tagline and branding on that is going to be very, very different than, Carter's kids' clothes. It's going to be very different. So, just to answer your basic question with a really long answer, you really have to have a lot of thought that goes into it. Our tagline took over 2 years to create. And what we did is we actually interviewed parents at our studio, and we asked our best clients, the best ones, our best ones that are the most affluent, that has the most well-mannered kids, that always paid on time. They showed up for classes. They were your winners. They were your champions. They were referring people left and right without even being asked or prompted. These are the people that you want to hang out with outside of work, but you didn't, because you don't want to sort of cross that line. We brought them into the office and we asked them about 7 or 8 questions about our program. Why are you here? What made you start? When you think of Kickmasters Karate, what comes to mind? And they start throwing out these words, these descriptive words. And after all of these interviews were over, we compiled that data, and the 2 words that came to mind, confidence and leadership, it came up over and over and over. So then you got to ask yourself those 3 questions. Okay, where were you? Okay, is this kind of what you had in mind when you started? Where are you now? That's where we were now. And where do you want to be, and does this fit? So the brand promise then evolved accordingly, and then of course we went and we make sure we had the right logo and the right look. Behind our logo is the kanji symbol for courage, which was extremely important when you go out on your own or when you try something new. It applies to new students. It applies to students testing for black belt. It applies to students that we put in our leadership programs or people that would come on the floor for the first time. So that sort of made some symbolic reference to us. And then, of course, in our logo, there is no dragon. There's no spinning skull. There's no daggers and swords and stuff, even though the martial arts is very deep-rooted in some of these elements. So you want to make sure you have mass appeal or niche appeal depending on what you're doing. So with your clients, I think it's important to really stop and think about that before you just come up with some sort of logo and throw it out there.
Makes a lot of sense. Definitely makes a lot of sense. Where do you feel, how can detail in the tangible good, the facility, your client care, customer service, your efficiency, and really over-delivery, how does that drive your brand?
Well, I think you are what you're known for. And there's a very interesting thing I learned a couple years ago, that perception is reality. So what people perceive to be true in their own mind is true. It's the reality. And like I said, I'm a big Disney fan. You go to the Disney Studios and you go to the backlot tour. They just actually closed that. But on the streets of America, you can stand and you see, if you look at one point, you can look back in the Disney Studios and see these huge skyscrapers. And they're humongous, and it looks like a New York City street. And in another view, you can see a San Francisco street. And of course, when you walk up to these things, they're facades. They're fake. They're just like giant cardboard buildings, that are meant to withstand the hurricanes and stuff. But where you're standing at a certain point, it looks real. Of course, it's not real, and it's like a movie set. And of course, that's the point. So when somebody hears that you're expensive, when they hear that your studio is dirty, when they hear that you provide excellent customer service, when they hear that you're involved with the community. So you have the good stuff and the bad stuff. When they hear these items, they hear these things over and over and over again, it certainly becomes reality. It's like lore. So I was just telling somebody the other day, when I was in 9th grade, I had this kid that was bullying me. He was picking on me down in the locker room, and he kept shoving me over. I was trying to tie my shoe. My foot was on this bench, and he'd step up and he'd shove me. Of course, all these guys were around because, I've done martial arts, since I was 10. And, of course, they all wanted to see what I was going to do. And, I said, hey, if you shove me again, you're going to be sorry. And, of course, I put my foot up. I'm tying my shoe. I'm looking right at this kid. And this kid, he just couldn't resist. He was one of those ones that love to push your buttons. And he shoved me again, and I stepped back, and I kicked him in the ribs. And seriously, it's like an after-school special. He flew back to the wall. He grabbed his ribs, and, of course, he slid down the wall. And, just then the teacher came in. He shouted, all right, guys, let's line up. Of course, I didn't know what to do. I was going to be suspended, all this kind of stuff. The point of the story was, and of course, the kid was okay. I didn't get suspended because, of course, back then, the bullies, you took care of things with your hands. I'm not advocating that, by the way. Don't do that. But by the end of the day, the point of the story is, by the end of the day, the legend had grown where this kid was in traction. He was going to die. I kicked him with a jump flying whatever kick, and I was like the toughest kid in the history of the school, and this is before social media. God help us that would happen today, because, who knows what would happen. The video would be posted online, and I'd be on Letterman and all this stuff, But what I'm saying is perception then became reality, and nobody touched me in my course of high school, my 4-year high school career from that point on, and because everybody was afraid to. They were afraid that I was going to hit him with a jump spinning tornado kick and put him into traction, and they were going to die, and they were on the deathbed, and he was filling out the will, and it's crazy how that happened. Good thing for me, that was my moment, one of my defining moments as far as my physical skill. Nobody touched me, but also it really changed the trajectory of high school for me, because I had a great time in high school. I loved high school. I got along with everybody and things like that. But that's just one example of what your brand can really do for you. Now, what would have happened if I missed the kid or didn't kick him? Or what happens if it didn't hurt him? Or what happens if he would have beat me up or punched me in the face? And by the end of the day, it would have went completely different, and of course, completely changing. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, of monitoring your brand. But you really have to make sure that when you provide a service, a good, or somebody has interaction with you or your staff, or even just your website, it has to be a positive one. It has to create an emotion where people want to either reach out to you or try it or touch it or pick up the phone or send an email or respond to it in a positive way on Twitter or Instagram, or just making sure that it stays true to your brand. Now, do you think if you're selling Harleys that you want to go into the nursery, fire up the Harleys and say, hey, we have the perfect way to put your kid to sleep, right? All of a sudden the perception is, well, Harley doesn't care about little kids. The reality is they're mean, they're bullies, they're exhaust, they're trying to kill kids. And by the end of the week, the brand would be ruined. Even if it was meant as something sort of fun or spontaneous or some sort of marketing genius said, well, that's a great way to sell Harleys to moms or something like that. So just one mistake can really sort of knock your brand or really affect you in a negative way. So the details in the good and the facility and your service and your efficiency really become the stories then. What happens when there's a mistake? What do you do? How do you handle that? What's your customer service like? Is your staff engaging? Are they smiling? One thing that we have at our studio is really, really simple. But I learned this at a fast food restaurant when I visited a couple years ago. We have a helium tank in our back storage room. And any time that we see a little kid or he's having a bad day or mom's just stressed out and overworked, we go in the back, we get one of our Kickmasters branded balloons, we blow it up, we tie it, and when they're about to leave, we come in and we give them a balloon. And we say, just because, we thought maybe that little Johnny's having a bad day, and guess what? Johnny smiles, mom's happy, but before we give it to them, we make sure that they understand. Now in the car, Big Brother's going to hold this balloon, or we're going to put it in the backpack. But once you get home, you can play with it. It's yours forever and ever and ever. And just because you're a great kid, and we know that you're having a bad day, but we know you can do better. Things like that on somebody's birthday, balloons. If we're having a special event at the studio, we're already set with balloons. And a couple years ago, there was a helium shortage. I don't know how that happened, but just a little thing like that, just a little balloon, a 10-cent balloon with our logo on it, and of course that's important, can really make a difference. And the other thing is too, there can be elements at your facility, at least in our martial arts studio, that really make a big difference too. We have a 10 by 20 foot backlit neon sign on the side of our building. This thing, it's red and green, and around Christmas time, when there's no leaves on the trees, it looks like Santa lives there, which is exactly kind of why we did that. Our numbers always go up around Christmas because they think Santa's there. So they come in, they say, where's Santa Claus? No, Santa Claus isn't here, but we do martial arts here. Let me show you what we do. We have a 9-foot water wall, in our studio. That just the stone was harvested stone from the Indian rainforest. We have regular fluorescent lighting for our regular classes, but then on special events, and when our demo team performs, we have 58 recessed lights in our studio in 12 different lighting zones. So it's almost like a concert. We can dim those any way we want. We can highlight different things when we do fight scenes or fight choreography. And of course, we have the state-of-the-art sound system. We've hand-carved our mat, our logo. We've sandblasted the glass in our rooms. Just little things like that. But let me just sort of switch gears of what's in your brand to what's not in your brand, because that can be just as important too. At our studio, we have a no shoe policy, which means when you have to take your shoes off, at first we sort of have one thing that we have to overcome because a lot of people are really hesitant and reserved. But because we keep our facility super clean, people understand, so that's what they're doing to make sure they keep the mat clean and the carpet clean. Also, it goes sort of a little deeper than that, at least with just that one element. When you take your shoes off, it reminds you of being at home. And when you're home, you're comfortable. And, when you find a place you're comfortable, are you going to be quick to leave? Now you can't do that at a fast food place or somewhere we serve food. And you have to check with your local codes to see if that's okay. But at our studio, it really does fit. We have a no cell phone policy. We want to teach kids to be confident, to be focused, to make sure they have self-value and self-worth. And we don't need the baby got back ringtone going on the side there anytime. And the other thing is, too, that we do a service at our studio, and the number one perception amongst martial arts studios to outsiders is that either they're too rough, they're too small, or they cost too much, or they smell. And what we've done is we found a product out there called Scent Air, and it has revolutionized the way that people interact with the smell of our facility Because when we ask you to take your shoes off, there's a smell. When you sweat, there's a smell. Okay, when you speak with your breath, there's a smell. When you use the bathroom, there's a smell. There are smells associated with just about everything that we do in our body. So what we did, we found this company, Scentair is great. They send us these Scentair containers that really make our studio smell wonderful. And it's a custom smell just for our studio. So what happens is we link our brand with something that's clean, that's positive. People come in and they say, wow, that smells great. What is that smell? Well, if you smell that anywhere else, or even a hint of that cleaner anywhere else, you're going to immediately think of our studio and how clean it is. And it's a really big game changer. But let me give you the nugget on this one. Detail and service invokes brand loyalty, and it creates the stories and the lore that support your actual brand. It perpetuates it. It can take it to a next level. You have two martial arts studios. You have one that's really, really good. You have another one that's really, really good. The studio's about the same size, but you have one that has these stories how they help underprivileged kids, and they are involved in their community, and they give back, and they do scholarships, and they do Pancake Day at the Rotary. And you have the other one that has a world-class kicker. Well, if I'm a parent, I want my kid to be good, of course, and of course you're going to have people gravitate to that. But I also want to be valued, because my kid may never be a world-class kicker. But guess what? I want to teach him how to serve. I want to teach him how to lead. I'm going to go to this company. It sometimes can really be the differentiator. And at the Disney Institute, it is estimated that every brand loyal customer that they have that come through those turnstiles there is worth approximately $60,000 in net income throughout the course of their lifetime. So the reason that Disney does it so well is they figure the formula out that if you have somebody that's a raving fan, they're going to come back and they're going to spend a lot of money, and they're going to spend a lot of time posting pictures and blogs and having great things to say, and that's going to perpetuate the brand even further.
Got it. Great insight there. Fabulous insight. What do you feel brand leveraging is, and how do you suppose it can add to folks' bottom line?
Well, brand leveraging is basically two or more like-minded entities or brands working in synergy. Okay, so what does that mean? Basically, when this happens, two heads are basically stronger than one. They become stronger, more powerful, more efficient, more influential. And what happens is you can, just like the name suggests, leverage what you have, what you do, with another audience that's very related and close in a positive way. And basically, the easiest way to understand this is Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey basically made Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, Rachel Ray, and was very influential in the presidential election in 2008. Very influential. She endorsed Barack Obama, and of course, like it or not, she put that stamp on these people. Her book club, her book club. You find a book, Oprah says, this is a great book. They sell a million copies overnight. And that's kind of what brand leveraging does in a nutshell. You're aligning yourself in one of three ways, either by message, by popularity, or by purpose. And message would be like, okay, we're going to have this collaboration. Just to give you an example, Rascal Flatts a couple years ago did a song with Justin Bieber. So you have two great icons, completely different audiences, messages, both singers, yes, same genre, but they felt like if they collaborated, they can really market to the other. And of course, that was when Rascal Flatts was sort of on the downhill, and Justin Bieber was sort of ascending. We all know that, right now, I don't know if they would collaborate now, but a couple years ago, it made sense for both. Bieber wanted to go into the country market a little bit. There was a little crossover, and Rascal Flatts, needed a bump. They were getting ready to tour. Made perfect sense. Brand leveraging at its best. Popularity, it could be where you align yourself with somebody that's already established. We did a couple years ago. We did our 20-year celebration here at the studio, and we wanted to really, quote unquote, the icing on the cake of the event. So at the time on the Food Network, there was a show called Ace of Cakes, and it's by Charm City Cakes was the company. So we called these guys up. We said, listen, we want a cake from your institution. We want you guys to make our cake. And we aligned ourselves with already established brand. And, of course, they built 2 cinder blocks, boards out of sugar. They put a sparring headgear. They built a sparring headgear and a sparring handgear. Everything was branded with our logo. It even had the Century logo on it. And, of course, everything was not only cake and edible, but the boards you could actually break. They were made out of gum paste. Even made boards or gum paste pencils that would go between the boards. So nobody knows who Kickmasters Karate is in Baltimore because it's like 3 hours away from where we are. However, everybody knows Charm City Cakes. So they put the cake on their Facebook page, and instantly, it was like 200 additional likes just on our page. Just bam, just like that. So by aligning yourself with a stronger brand and a more established brand, it not only adds credibility, but you'll get an instant bump almost immediately. And sort of the third one is purpose. The easiest way to think about purpose is, a message. PSAs. Celebrities are saying, stay away from drugs, or don't do, underage drinking. The Jerry Lewis telethon is another really good way to look at it. Here's Jerry Lewis. He has a purpose. He's passionate about raising money. And, of course, throughout the course of that telethon, hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into the research. So the brand leveraging itself by aligning with the right partner can really, really make a big difference.
Awesome. How do you, speaking of partners, how do you decide with who to align? And really, how do you feel like people can maximize their strategic partnerships?
Well, you got to be on the lookout at all points. I mean, this goes from somebody of even hiring somebody to come and work at your studio or work for your business. I found one of our best receptionists at our church. She watched my son in the nursery. I saw how she interacted with him and how engaged she was. And I heard her almost immediately. It was like, wow, this is great. So, allowing her brand, and everything has a brand. I mean, everyone does have a brand, whether they know it or not. Her brand said quality, safety. I'm going to go ahead and hire her to work at my facility. And, of course, it worked out great. She's one of our top people. But I'm just going to give you just a quick little acronym. It's called FELLOWS, FELLOWS. Good fellows equal great partnerships. So I'm going to give it to you really quick, okay? F, figure out your brand and your core message. I think that's important. We've already talked about that. E, establish your brand by branding everything you possibly can that makes sense. We already talked about that. L, look for other like brands based on 3 co-branding principles. Again, we just talked about that through messaging, popularity, focus, or purpose. And the second L is lock in partnerships based on your brand's value and messages. Okay, so how do you do that? You have to align your goals and make sure that you reach out with connections. This Saturday we're doing our 3rd annual Bully Prevention Open House. There's a lot of passionate people in our community about stopping underage bullying or bullying at the levels that you see in school. And we reached out to community partners. We have 50 community partners that have locked on to our event. And, of course, not only do they help spread the word, they add credibility, but also they provide goods or takeaways to the people that come to our event. I think that's important, too, because now you can get your message out quicker. And, again, people at Chick-fil-A around here might not know who Kickmasters Karate is, but when Chick-fil-A puts their name on an event that we're associated with, they're like-minded people that like their product then are going to say, okay, well, if it's good enough for Chick-fil-A, it's good enough for me. Or at least an idea of just searching out who Kickmasters Karate is or who Rando Speaks is to go ahead and really take that to the next level. Organize events by aligning goals and desired outcomes. And really this has to do with what the desired outcome is. So, for example, when Subway sells footlongs, they align with just a recent commercial with RG3. I'm a big Redskins fan. Yeah, sorry about my luck, I know. But, it does make sense that he's an athlete, he's endorsing this footlong, and maybe Redskin fans don't like Subway or don't want to eat healthy because that's, of course, their brand, Eat Fresh. Okay, but what Subway's doing, exposing maybe a new clientele to their brand. And he's doing the same thing. Now, number one, I mean, they're paying him, which is great, but maybe a lot of Redskins fans who like RG3 maybe don't eat at Subway, or maybe people that eat at Subway don't necessarily like RG3 or know what his message is. And of course, everybody wins because, he's heading an organization for underage kids. He gets more people to tune into the games. Everybody eats more footlongs. It's a win-win as long as the brand desired outcomes really flow and mesh. And the last is secure future endeavors with like brands. So if a campaign works or a strategy works, what are you going to do to make sure you can do it next year or the next year or the next year? So I think that's important. Good fellows equal great partnerships. It's a really easy acronym to remember, and I'm sure everybody's with a pencil writing it down right now. So good job, A+ students with the pencils.
I'm typing as we go. I'm taking probably as many notes as everybody else is. Obviously the web has really changed the way we do everything now. How do you feel like endless web content has changed how we brand and really how we market?
This is a thing that we're all trying to figure out if we own businesses. I mean, how do we connect? And the only thing that likes change is a wet baby. That's point blank. So you have to try to figure out what worked yesterday if it's going to work today. And with the evolving marketplace, the answer is probably not. Just to give you an idea, people are hit with over 4,000 brand messages a week. And how are you going to stand out with the product or service you provide is tough. But I'll just tell you some basic things that have helped me. Staying current is important. So you've got to have social media. And when you do social media, you have to be good at it, and you have to be current with your communities. You got to make sure that you're connecting with local charities. Again, you have to leverage your brand in a way that at first, especially if you're a new-time business or first-time business owner or new, creating something, people don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. You can have all the passion in the world, but if people don't know the hustle behind the muscle per se, they're not going to buy. They're not going to try. So staying current is important. Frequency would be the second thing that I would say, and that is delivering the message often and on a way that's very, very connecting, very basic so somebody can understand. When I was developing my website, I went to the web people and they said, listen, you have to build your website like an 8-year-old is going to surf the web. And I said, well, an 8-year-old is not going to surf the web. They're not going to go and hire me for consulting. It has to be big pictures, easy to understand language, short content, as far as like the verbiage. And that makes sense because if you got to sort through a whole bunch of stuff in today's day and age, with things coming at you 24/7, my phone's ringing since this interview is happening. I think I have 6 emails, I got 18 tweets, I got this favored this, and Facebook likes all this stuff. It's coming at me 24/7. I don't have time to read 2 or 3 pages worth of stuff. So you got to make it clear and concise. Frequency is important, though. You have to stay engaged. People love stories. If you can tell stories and connect on an emotional level, people are much more likely to purchase or buy or to try. And I heard a quote a couple weeks ago on a podcast I listened to. It said, there's endless content on the internet, but not a lot of insight. So if you can provide insight to the people that tune in day after day, week after week, maybe the first time for a month, provide something for free or some sort of valuable information they can't get anywhere else, then you're providing a service. So that people will begin to develop that relationship of trust, which obviously leads to people purchasing or at least trying your product. And of course, the last thing, and this is something that I'll just kind of throw in here, is that when you do provide that service or a frequency and you do the post, it's got to be professional, it's got to be current, and what I try to do is I want it to try to be timeless. So a lot of times when I put something, especially on the Rando Speaks Facebook page, it's a quote. And a lot of times quotes, especially as we learn from Shakespeare and even the Bible per se, that great quotes, they tend to stick around for a while. So having a great, insightful quote where people can use it, and I'm a quote guy. I love quotes. I love something that is quick and to the point. It's going to stimulate my cognitive approach. It's really going to help. It's really going to help me develop that lasting relationship with that entity, and also something that I can use as a reference. 20 years from now, when Joe Schmo, who listened to your consulting service and says, "Hey, Jason Silverman said this," I remember when he said this, and it hit me, and it struck me, and I just want to share that. Your product, your service, your legacy, it lives on through the stories and the connections that you make and tell. So the hardest part is with this current environment that I've seen is that people can go negative so fast. Because, there's a lot of people that hide behind the internet, and you put up a post and people say, "Oh, your skirt is ugly," or "I can't believe you're at that party," or "Look at that posh car he drives," or whatever. And people can be very negative very quick because you're not molding the story you want to tell. So you have to be very vigilant of your brand, because remember, it all goes back to what I said earlier. Everything speaks. Everything speaks. Everything from where you go to what you say to, just a couple weeks ago, there's a celebrity who gave up her first class ticket for a passenger in the back. And, she went and sat and coached. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. And that celebrity was one of the voices on the movie Frozen, Kristen Bell. And I was like, wow, I didn't really know Kristen that well, but that's kind of a big deal. So I, of course, Google her and see what she's doing and that kind of thing. Just that one little act of service, of making somebody else, lifting them up, building them up, really, really resonated with me. And I'm much more likely to see her next movie or her next project based on just that one little act of going above and beyond, of over-delivery and detail. So I think it definitely is changing. The landscape is changing. And if you're not changing, you will evaporate. Because if you're not throwing something out there on a regular basis, people aren't going to pay attention to you.
That's fair. Very fair. Folks, it is time for our resource of the week. So, Rick, tell me this. How can our listeners find out more about you and, whether it's your speaking services or really how you go about helping other entrepreneurs to succeed?
Well, there's a lot of ways. I mean, if you're a martial arts school owner, you're certainly welcome to check out anything that we do through kickmasterskarate.com. So kickmasterskarate.com. You can do social links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm sort of new to this platform, but it's interesting because it's Facebook for business owners and professionals. So it's really neat to see what people are doing, what they're liking, their connections. And I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So send me a message. You can do that. And again, my name is Rick Rando. It's really simple. And the other way, if you want to find out more about what I do, speaking engagements, the seminar topics I can provide for your business, randospeaks.com. Again, I'm on all the social media there. I just launched that not too long ago. So there's a lot of social media stuff that's still very in its infancy stage. So, you will find that I don't have 1 billion followers yet. However, I'd love to connect with you there. So I would, your listeners, I think, on every podcast, if they don't walk away with something, they're either distracted, they're not paying attention, or they're not looking to be fed. Because I got to tell you, point blank, this is the number one podcast that I listen to when new podcasts come out. Number one. I'm scrolling, when that little bubble comes up on my phone, I'm saying, okay, I'm hoping it's the real deal because I know I'm going to get some nuggets out and I know I'm going to get some growth there. It's almost like, and it's going to sound bad, but it's almost like going to church. It's like, okay, you go and you get fed and it's like, yeah, man, this is the guy for me. I want to hear more. Not only from you, but I want to hear more from the people that you have on because you have top-rate guests from one of your podcasts, and it's just amazing. I'm just humbled to even be on the same podcast. So thank you, sir. My pleasure. Well, thank you for sharing all your goodies. So I love to end my podcast with an important question, and it's really telling to me, about the mindset of my guests. So tell me this. If you could give business owners just one solid piece of advice to either help their business or, more importantly, to help them live a better life, what would that piece of advice be? So, great question. And, let's see here. Okay, so this is what I want to do. I talked earlier, and you kind of actually alluded to it before, but I talked earlier about strategic partnerships and aligning yourself with the right people. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw this out here, okay? And you remember, all hate mail goes to Jason Silverman at idon'tcare.com.
There we go.
Right? Surround yourself with fire starters. Surround yourself with people that are going to build you up, that are going to challenge you, that are going to push you, that are going to bring out the best versions of you. And also, in that same regard, you got to cut the energy suckers. You got to detach from these people. You got to. They could be called leeches. They could be called, Debbie Downers, whatever you want to call them. I call them energy suckers. And basically, it's anyone or anything that detracts from who you are and where you want to go. Point blank. Lead by example. And there's a quote that I throw out there. And again, I'm a big quote guy. When when you live the story you tell, people will listen. But conviction and its purpose will encourage them to follow. And that's kind of what you want to walk away from this podcast with, is lead by example. Surround yourself with the right people, and don't be afraid to cut bait with the people that are draining of your time, your energy, your emotion. And although sometimes we want to choke our children and lock them in the basement, don't do that. But just be mindful and vigilant of who you let in, because you got to be surrounded by the right people. Otherwise, you'll never grow, and you'll never get where you want to be.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Rick, thank you so much for joining me today. I know how busy you are, and it means the world to me that you take some of your time and share your experience and your wisdom with us.
It's my pleasure, sir. Anytime for you.
Folks, that is all the time we've got today. Thank you so much for tuning into The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. For more information about private coaching or to see if you benefit from one of our mastermind groups, visit me over at www.jasonmsilverman.com, where I look forward to helping you achieve the success that you truly deserve. Until next time, let me leave you with this. Get out there and be the real deal. Set a goal, make a plan, work like hell towards it, and achieve the success that's waiting for you. Now's the time. Get out there and make it happen. Go get 'em, folks. This has been Jason Silverman, and I hope you have a spectacular week.
You've been listening to The Real Deal with Jason Silverman. To access the great resources mentioned in the show and for information on coaching and mastermind group opportunities with Jason, please visit jasonmsilverman.com.